Hi, now let us take a look at question 39. An experiment was conducted in a dark room using the setup as shown. Now we want to find out if the type of materials affects the amount of light reflected as shown. Recall that when we see the three words "to find out," it usually refers to the aim of the experiment, and what we should do is to box up two keywords. We should box up "if" and we should box up the word "affects" and underline the words in between the two boxes, as well as the words after the second box until the full stop. Now, what do these underlined words represent? They actually represent our change and measured variable. So in this case, for this experiment, the change variable is the type of material and the measured variable is the amount of light reflected. Now, how are we able to measure the amount of light reflected? This is when we use a light sensor with a data logger attached. Now, how is the light sensor able to receive light? That is because light from the light source is reflected off the material into the light sensor. So how do we visualize this better? Let's trace the path of light. Recall that when it comes to tracing the path of light, we always start with the light source. So in this case, light from the light source, which travels in a straight line, is reflected off the material into the light sensor. And that is how the light sensor is able to receive light. Now the experiment was then conducted repeatedly using other materials B, C, and D, and the average amount of light detected by the light sensor was recorded as shown. Now for part A, we need to explain why it was necessary for the experiment to be conducted in a dark room. Now in this setup, we know that the amount of light detected by the light sensor was only from light that was reflected off the materials, which was from the torch. So in this case, what happens if I were to not use a dark room and place the setup in a bright room instead? There would also be light from other light sources or the surroundings. As such, when we record the amount of light detected by the light sensor, am I able to differentiate whether the amount of light detected was light reflected from the materials or light detected from other light sources? We will not be able to tell. So it is crucial to keep the experiment in a dark room such that the amount of light detected by the light sensor is only light that is reflected off the materials and not any other light sources in the surroundings. So that's our answer for part A. Over here we would say that conducting the experiment in the dark room ensures that the light sensor only receives light from the lit torch, which is reflected off the materials, and not light from any other light sources in the surroundings. For part B, we need to state two other changes to be made to the experiment such that the light sensor is able to detect more light reflected by the materials. So over here, let's look at the setup once again. Now we notice that if we want the light sensor to receive more light, this means that we can either change something about the lit torch or we can do something about the material. So let's look at the lit torch first. If I want the light sensor to receive more light, would I increase or decrease the amount of light given out by the torch? I would increase the amount of light given out by the torch such that more light can be reflected off the material into the light sensor, allowing the light sensor to detect more light. So the first change we can do to experiment is to increase the intensity of the lit torch. Now, what about the material? What happens if I were to move the material? If I want the light sensor to receive more light, would I move the material closer or further away from the light sensor? I will move the materials closer to the light sensor such that more light from the lit torch is able to be reflected off the material into the light sensor, and that is change number 2. So for part B, our answer will be like this. So the first change is to increase the intensity of the light source, and the next change is to place the material closer to the light source, and in both scenarios, more light from the torch will be able to be reflected off the material into the light sensor, allowing the light sensor to detect more light. For part C, the diagram below shows the side of the ship. Now, based only on the results in the table, which material is suitable for making reflective stickers for ships that is traveling at night? Now, first of all, before we choose our material, we need to know why are these reflective stickers required. So remember that at night, visibility is very, very low. As such, these reflective stickers will allow light to be reflected off them into other ship's captain's eyes so that the other ship's captain can see the ship easily when it is dark at night. So if we want to make reflective stickers, would we choose a material that reflects most light, or will we choose a material that reflects the least amount of light? We would choose the most reflective material. So let's look at the data given. Now for the data given, we observe that most amount of light detected was when material B was placed in front of the light sensor. So once again, if material B was placed in front of the light sensor and most light was detected by the light sensor, this means that material B must have reflected the most amount of light. So if material B reflected the most amount of light, we can conclude that material B is the most reflective. So I'm going to write this here. Material B reflects most light, and thus it is the most reflective. Now, which is the least reflective material? It will be material A, because the amount of light detected when material A was placed in front of the light sensor was the least. As such, we can then say that material A reflects the least amount of light. So once again, we are choosing the material to make reflective stickers, and we want the most reflective material. So which material will we choose? We would choose material B. And why do we choose material B? Remember, when it comes to a choosing question, we need to use our CUE template. So what does CUE stand for? It stands for choose, use data, and explain. So we have already chosen material B. Now, using the data given to us, why did we choose material B? Because based on the data, we saw that the average amount of light detected when material B was placed in front of the light sensor was the most. And what happens is that this tells us that material B is the most reflective material. Now, why is it important to have the most reflective materials? This is to allow most light from the light source to be reflected off the reflective stickers made from material B. Thus, most light is able to be reflected off these reflective stickers to enter the other ship's captain's eyes, allowing the other ship captains to see the ships the most easily. So, putting it all together, this is how our answer will be like. For choose, we will choose material B. Use data, we would say that amount of light detected by the light sensor with material B is the most. And finally, when we explain, we would say that this shows that material B is the most reflective. Thus, most light from the lighthouse, which is the light source, would be reflected off the reflective stickers of the ship into other ships' captain's eyes, allowing them to see the ships the most easily at night. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found this video useful, do give us a thumbs up. If you want to check out the other videos we have made, do click on the links on the right hand side. Last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!